What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Loud Bostonian. Today I'll be doing my review of SHAZAM! The latest film in the DC extended universe. SHAZAM is the story of Billy Batson, a foster child who gets incredible powers granted to him from a wizard named Shazam. Now, this movie I was super excited for. I love DC characters. They're my favorite comics to read, so I always am rooting for DC to come out on top. This movie is fantastic. The critic score is at 92% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it deserves every bit of that score. It is fun, it is family friendly for the most part, and it is just a good time at the movies. All the promotional work and everything that you've heard is that it is big crossed with a superhero film, and that is absolutely true. It is that. But it's also got more elements to it than that because of the way that the kid aspect unfolds. I'd say it's like Goonies. It's like any of those, Spielberg kind of late 80s, early 90s kid-friendly romps that are just... It's just so much fun, guys. It really is out of this world. The fun factor on this is through the roof. Zach Levi as the character Shazam, when he is just unbelievable. He was born to play this role. He is a kid at heart. So when Billy Batson transforms into Shazam, a full-grown superhero, he really just has the heart of a child, and you can see it just... He was made to play this character. He had so much fun with it. And I love Zach Levi. I loved him from Chuck. I love him in friggin' Tangled, Flynn Rider. He's one of my favorite actors. And he's been so big for the geek community that I was just thrilled when I heard he got cast in this role. And I really, really, really think that there was the perfect casting out there. It's like Ryan Reynolds was perfect for Deadpool. Zach Levi was perfect for Shazam. So this is just... dream come true for me, dream come true for him, I'm sure, and it really was just perfect. Asher Angel, his counterpart, who plays, 15-year-old Billy Batson, he does a great job. I've never heard of this kid before this movie, but it's funny, because the movie actually, you'd think that Shazam would get some of the heavy lifting, but as far as, the emotional aspect of it, being a foster kid looking for his mom, Asher Angel gets all of those scenes, and he really delivers. I truly felt like he was just a foster kid who was down on his luck looking for his mom after all these years, and he just nails it. Every scene he has, he nails it, and I thought they worked very good together, and I'm very much looking forward to them doing more work together should this movie get a sequel. The next foster kid is Jack Dylan Grazer. The kid who played Eddie in It. He is one of the foster kids that gets... that Billy's living with, and he's, you've seen him in the trailers, he's kind of handicapped. He knows everything about his character's name's Freddie Freeman. He knows everything about the superhero world. This is, in the trailer you can see him, he's the one who has the photos of Superman, the Batarang, the Aquaman t-shirts, Wonder Woman t-shirts, that sort of thing. So he is our knowledge point into the DC extended universe, into these characters that live in this world. So he does a great job. He is so funny and sarcastic, and he really counters both Asher Angel and Zach Levi in such a way that without him, the movie might not have even worked. He was great. I loved him. I thought he was so funny, and he was so on point, and he might even steal the show as the best actor in the show, but in the movie rather. But I thought he did a fantastic job. And then the only other real main character, obviously there's a bunch of other foster kids, the foster parents, they all do a great job, but Mark Strong is the villain, Dr. Thaddeus Savannah. Now, a lot of people are upset that Black Adam wasn't the villain of choice for this film, and this comic adaptation is from basically Jeff Johns' New 52 run, and they basically tell a story that is from a story that Black Adam was a prominent villain, and they just kind of cut him out and replaced him with Dr. Savannah. And I think it works, because you don't want to use your big villain in the first film, really, because if you get the chance to tell the same story and have the same impact without having to use him, then that just leaves you open to be able to bring him in later down the road. And Mark Strong, who's had a tough run when it comes to superhero movies of just attaching himself to franchises that don't work, he was what's-his-face in... He's what's-his-face in the Green Lantern movie, Sinestro, and, he didn't do anything wrong. He was great, but obviously that movie tanked. But this time through, he is a villain that is very good. He gets an awesome backstory where you totally feel bad for him, and then it just plays out in such a way that when he gets his powers, you almost sympathize with what he does with them. Not to everything. I mean, he's a bad guy, for sure. Like, he does some heinous things, so you don't agree with that, but some of the choices he makes, you'd be like, I don't know if I wouldn't have made that choice if I got those powers if I were him. So I think he did a great job. He really was a great counterpoint to Shazam, and I really dug his performance. After that, I would say the world building was the next cool thing. So, like I said, this definitely ties into the DC Extended Universe, but they do it in such a smart way where they don't really reference events, they don't really do anything like that, but it's pretty cool the way that it ties in, just with the minor mentions of they similar to do it in Aquaman the same, where they have just like a few references here and there, and this movie does exactly that. But it's its own movie, which is huge. But the world building inside Shazam is really cool because all the mysticism and the creatures that are referenced and things like that are inside this film are awesome, and it's just an aspect of DC we haven't seen yet. So I was thrilled, and I can't wait to see where this goes. I'm a huge Shazam comic lover, so I know that there's a lot of stuff out there that can be brought into this, and I'm really looking forward to it, and it's really just the step-off point for where this could go. The action in this film is very similar to, it's like, I would consider it like a toned-down Man of Steel. Like, obviously, there's big build-ups where you see Billy learning his powers and how to use them, and a lot of the action pieces before that come from Dr. Savannah's character, or Mark Strong's character, Dr. Savannah, getting a lot of aggressive action scenes leading up to the confrontation with Shazam. So, but when they finally meet each other and they're going toe-to-toe, it's Man of Steel level fighting. You see it in the trailers, like they're flying through cities, knocking each other for miles, and it's really cool. And obviously it doesn't have the Man of Steel, I'll tell you right now, it doesn't have the Man of Steel level destruction, so nobody has to be too concerned that these guys shouldn't have been fighting in this area, because they do tone that down and make it, not realistic, obviously, but they make it smaller in a regard so that it's not so over the top like Man of Steel was. But it's awesome. It really is really good, and I thought the action was on point. Few scenarios where the CG looks a little funky, but honestly, this movie was made on a $90 million budget comparatively to like these $150 million, $200 million budget. Aquaman was $200 million. So obviously, the CG in this, it's understandable there could be a couple scenes that look kind of funky. But considering I only noticed it like once or twice, it's a damn good job for $90 million. So, and it's a smart move on their part too, because this movie's definitely going to make its money back on that kind of a budget. So, good move by DC in my opinion. The sequel should have a much larger budget though. The big standout in this movie to me is the heart of this film. A lot of these movies, or a lot of movies in general, kind of portray the foster family scenario as like negatives. But this family that adopts Billy in the beginning of this movie, or takes Billy in rather, they're full of love, and they were foster kids themselves, so they really drive home that, like, I know we're not your family, but we could be a family, and it's really, really sweet, and that is a theme that throughout this movie is super important, and it comes back majorly in the third act of this film, which I will report now, guys. I'm not going to go into major spoilers, and I'll put up a spoiler warning when I do, but this film does not have a third act issue. Kind of like Aquaman didn't really have a third act issue. It had the big battle, but it was cool. Wonder Woman had the third act issue. Man of Steel had the third act issue, but Justice League all 3-act issue. But this movie does not have a third act issue because the way that they go about doing it is so good, and it harkens to the heart of the film and everything like that. So it's really cool what they do in this third act. I love it. But the heart of this film is really what drives it. Where would I rank this film in accordance with the rest of the DC Extended Universe right now? Wonder Woman's still at my top. Wonder Woman, I loved Gal Gadot. She literally captured my heart in that movie. I mean, I didn't even think she should have been cast as Wonder Woman when she was first cast, but then her appearance in Batman vs Superman changed my opinion on her because she looked awesome, and she really nailed it, and then Wonder Woman just drove home her, like her as an actress, what she could deliver in the heart of that film. So Wonder Woman's still at my top. Then there's a toss-up for me now, guys, because I don't know. Aquaman was my number 2 because I just love the action. I love the fun aspect that it had and everything Jason Momoa brought to the table. But this movie, really, the heart just drives it so far home that I think it may be my number 2. So I'm going to tentatively say that Shazam's my number 2, but I've only seen it once. I've seen Aquaman a few times, so I want to believe that Aquaman could take it back. But for me, it goes Wonder Woman, Shazam, Aquaman, Man of Steel. Man of Steel used to be my number 1, guys, but these latest DC movies really, these standalones are just driving home how good DC could be. And this is definitely the path forward they need to keep going with. Make these single one-off movies where you can really bring the characters home, and then down the line, if you guys want a retried shot at Justice League, no one's going to argue because everyone's going to love these characters already. So, yeah, that's my list right there. My final score for this movie before I jump into spoilers, 4 out of 5 stars. I think it was fantastic. My only issue with the movie is that I actually think it could have been a little longer. You could have had a few more interactions, kind of build out the Foster family a little more, each of the individual characters and how they interact with Billy, because, like I said, the third act is all about family, all about heart, so it would have made the third act a little bit better to me had they had the opportunity to do that. But that's not even a major complaint. 4 or 5 stars, almost 5. If I had to, honestly, 4.75. So I friggin' love this movie. I hope you guys run out to see it. Anyways, that's going to do it for the non-spoiler review. I'm going to jump into some spoilers here, so I'll throw the spoiler warning up there. There it is. And back into it. You've had your warning. This is the spoilers now. So a couple characters that they don't show in any of the trailers that you probably already know about if you're watching this post of the movie coming out. The 7 deadly sins. The 7 deadly sins are, obviously you know what the 7 deadly sins are. It's from the Bible, all this stuff. But there are these creatures, these demons that, and they're literally demons, guys. It's not like actors in human skin. They're fucking monsters. And these guys are vicious and destructive, and I didn't think they were going to use him in this movie. I thought it was literally just going to be him versus Savannah the whole movie. But the way that it ties in with Savannah was originally chosen to potential to be Shazam when he was a kid, but his greed gets the best of him, and he almost unleashes the 7 deadly sins when he was given the opportunity to try to be Shazam. So he gets a power stripped from him, sent away, and then he dedicates his whole life to coming back and getting his way back into the realm, and he frees the 7 deadly sins, and they become part of him. That's how he has his abilities later in the movie. It's fucking awesome, and they are really cool and really, really menacing, and they're definitely scary. This is the thing that I would say, depending on how old your kids are, don't bring them to see this movie. I don't think if you have a mature enough 8 to 10-year-old, you could probably take them to it, but you got to pre-warn them that there's some scary monsters in this movie. But yeah, aside from that, and you get used to them. You get used to them pretty quickly. So they're awesome, and I was so glad they're in there. They're straight out of the Jeff Johns New 52, and I love them, and I'm glad that they were in it, and it really extends the whole aspect of Shazam that he basically fights these, mythical creatures all the time. So it's really cool, and I really dug it. The next thing, and this ties right in with them, after Dr. Savannah gets the 7 deadly sins, he goes after his dad and his brother. His dad and his brother, in the first scene of the movie, treat him like shit. Dog shit. And then they get into a car accident, and they blame him for it, and all this stuff. So when he gets these creatures in him, and there's a boardroom scene where he goes after them, and he literally, like, right from the beginning, it's aggressive. Again, another one of the things you might not want younger kids to see. He grabs his brother, throws him out of a 30-story building. Just throws him out, and he's gone, dead, for sure. Then he unleashes the 7 deadly sins on all of the boardroom members, and they get eaten, his head's bitten off, no blood, but his head's bitten off, all this stuff, and then he basically just lets greed, that 7 deadly sin of greed, destroy his father, who is a greedy son of a bitch. So it was epic, and it was really cool, and I love that scene. I didn't think it was going to go that dark, so it's pretty awesome. The other thing that they tease in this movie, kind of closer to the third act, I would say, is they tease the 7 realms. Now, similar to the Thor canon, where he's got all the different, they call them realms in the, I don't know if they call them realms in Thor, I can't remember, but Shazam has a similar backstory, where he's got all these realms that you can access via the Rock of Eternity, which, again, I haven't explained what that is. The Rock of Eternity is basically Shazam's super hideout that the wizard lived in, that gave him his powers, all that stuff. And, so you can access all these different worlds. It's really cool, and you only see brief glimpses of all of them, but they are full of creatures, full of monsters. And if you've read the comics, there's some goofy-ass shit in those realms, so I'm really hoping that gets more explored in the sequels. I'm sure it will. So that was a really cool tease. And then finally, the third act thing that I was talking about, the family is so important to it. Dr. Savannah basically holds the family hostage. Billy confronts him as Shazam, and Savannah's whole ploy is that 7 deadly sins are using him to try and destroy Shazam's power, because they know that Shazam can stop him. In fact, they say straight out that we need to stop him before he realizes what his ultimate power is. What that is, Shazam's ultimate power, is that, a little bit of backstory before I jump into it, there were once 7 wizards protecting all of these realms, one for each realm, realistically. One of them is Black Adam, who I said, it's briefly mentioned in this movie in an explanation kind of scene by the wizard before he gives Billy his powers. So that's all they mention of him, so he's nowhere to be found. and then there are the other 7 wizards who have all died. So the main wizard, Shazam, gives Billy his powers and then tells him that something along the lines of, like, protect your family, or this is a big family tie in there. So anyways, so these foster kids, these 6 foster kids, including Billy, basically he gathers them all up, the 7 deadly sins are unleashed, and Billy decides he's going to grant these kids, he realizes that he can give some powers to his family. So they all hold of the wizard staff, and Billy tells them, say my name, and the power will be yours as well. So it's one of the best scenes in the movie, because they grab the thing and they say, Billy! And he's like, no, not my name. Say the name that I say when I turn into this. So they all grab it and they all yell Shazam. They all become the other 6 wizards that are the powers are passed between them. And it's amazing, because it's totally drives home this family dynamic, and that these guys are a unit. And I didn't think they were going to do it. In the comics, I know that they've done this, and they've given the powers to these foster kids, and it's awesome. And it further drives home the fact that Shazam's name isn't Shazam as much as it is the way to get the power, and that's why there's all these jokes in the movie about what is his name, and you don't know. But so these kids all get their powers, and they all, like Freddy, the Jack Dylan Grazer's character, he has like a limp. He's got this cane so he can walk around, and when he transforms, he's not Adrian Brody. What's that kid's? I forget the actor's name from the OC. But that, again, there's all these uncredited actors in like big actors in these roles that when you see them, like who they don't have names because it's uncredited, but you find out obviously that they are the the fully transformed versions of these kids grown up. So it was really freaking cool, man. And they all got their powers, and they all take out the 7 deadly sins. It's a fucking blast, guys. It was awesome. Very, very cool, and I really dug it. And obviously, at first I was like, I don't know if they should have done it in this movie. There's a chance, to me, maybe you could have saved it, but it works. It really works with a family dynamic. They're trying to drive home that any of these kids who have dreams of being together and being superheroes can achieve it. It was really cool, and I think kids are gonna love that all these kids get these abilities. It's really awesome, guys. It really is. It was so good. And the final thing I'll touch on, guys, some cameos in this movie. To cameos in the post-credit scene. Now, the cameo in the movie is that Jack Dylan Grazer's character, when he's at school, is getting bullied by all these other kids, and he claims, "Oh, I know, Shazam. I know him. I'll have him show up to lunch." And then there's a big thing that happens that he doesn't show up to lunch, and then one of the kids makes a joke like, "Yeah, you have him show up, and then maybe he'll bring Superman or something like that." So at the end of the movie, Billy shows up as Shazam, and he's like, "Oh, this is my buddy Freddy. He's a good buddy. He taught me everything I know about being a superhero." And he goes, "I'm not here by myself, though." And then you see in the off corner, you just see this. You see Superman walking in, and it's a shot from the shoulders down. So all you see is this Henry Cavill Superman suit come over and stand next to Freddie Freeman and standing next to Shazam. It's fucking awesome, and it's not Henry Cavill. I know I'm sorry to spoil it like that, but they didn't want to. This is the cameo that they wanted him to do, but he didn't want to do it unless they were going to give him a Superman sequel, which they should. Give me for Christ's sakes, give the guy a sequel. But it still works. It teases that Superman's there. It's fucking awesome. And I believe the last line of the movie is "Holy shit," and then it cuts off because Superman's standing there next to him. But and then there's some post-credit scenes. First post-credit scene is with Dr. Savannah in a jail cell, trying to, and they destroy the 7 deadly sins or put him back in captivity, and he's just scribbling all this nonsense on the walls, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be a tie into Black Adam. I know it is, but it's not. Because earlier in the film, when he first walks into the goddamn cave and the 7 deadly sins are escaping, there's a zoom in on this goddamn slug. And I'm like, what the fuck is that slug? And then I realized it was Mr. Mind, the slug that controls people's minds when it like creates more of itself and crawls into people's ears. It's a mind control bad guy from the Shazam comics. And it is in the cell with him and starts talking to him in this crazy accent. And it's like, oh, the realms you will see, the worlds you will see will take over the world. A typical bad guy like that. And so they're teasing Mr. Mind and Savannah being the main bad guys, and the other realms, obviously, being a big part of whatever the sequel they're going for is. Which is cool, as long as in that movie they really unlock Black Adam. Because if this is going to be a trilogy, Black Adam as a third bad guy is really awesome, and I think that's a great idea. But It's a great fucking movie. It really is. The second post-credit scene is like joke scene where they're throughout the movie they've been testing Shazam's abilities, trying to see if like what he can do. So one of the ones they have him trying to do is talk to a fish. Talk to like a fishbowl, and it doesn't work. And like it's obviously a nod to Aquaman, and he's like, this is a stupid power anyway. So that's kind of a joke scene. You don't need to stick around for it if you don't want to. But anyways, I love the movie, guys. Like I said, 4.75 out of 5 stars. It was great, great time at the movies. I hope you guys go out to see it because I hope this movie makes its money. I really do because it deserves it. It's another win for DC for sure, another home run. So if you like DC, if you like comic movies, if you like big crossed with Superman, then go and see it. If you like Zach Levi, go and see it. If you like any of these actors, go and see this movie because they really bring their A game. It is great. It is a fun time at the movies, and it's 2 weeks until Endgame comes out. So what else are you gonna do? Go see Hellboy? Come on, go see Shazam. It's definitely gonna be better than that. So go see the movie. Let me know in the comments what you thought of it if you've already seen it. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next week.